If you are planning to apply to the M7 business schools, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most qualified applicants get rejected, but not because they're not impressive, but because they don't understand what these schools are actually looking for. So in the next hour, Tatiana and I are going to break down how to approach your M7 applications strategically, so you're not just another strong candidate, but really a compelling one. So by the end of our session, you'll have a clear framework for what each M7 school is looking for, what they're evaluating, how to build a smart strategy across your school list and across the rounds, and the most common mistakes that quietly kill applications. So if you want to stop guessing and start being intentional about your applications, this session is for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome. So nice to have everyone. And Tatiana and I are going to talk about how to ace those M7 applications. And first, I just want to introduce ourselves. Welcome, I'm Michel Belden, formerly an Associate Director of Admissions at Wharton, and I am now a Fortuna Director and been with Fortuna since we started. And I really had that insider's view, obviously, as an AdCom at Wharton over the years, and really looking forward, as I do every year, to work with my clients to really ace their applications and bring out their strongest stories. And I'd love to introduce Tatiana, my colleague.
Thank you, Michelle. And I'm Tatiana Nemo. I am a Stanford alum and a former interviewer, and I'm a senior expert coach with Fortuna. I truly feel blessed, and it's a great honor for me to work with applicants in their journey, not only in putting together the application, but taking advantage of learning so much about themselves throughout this process, because it's truly introspective, but in a very practical manner. Looking forward to just sharing all these insights with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is why I love kind of our webinar today, is because we're going to kind of take that, starting position wherever you already are at in the process to kind of walk you through as you begin, because this is a journey, to at the day that you submit the application, but really to kind of sit back and think about where you've been, where you are now, and where you're headed, and how business school comes into play. So our agenda today, Tatiana, are going to kind of walk you through is really what are these M7 schools looking for. We're going to give you a quick snapshot of each of the schools, the essays as we know them right now. Some have not been announced quite yet, so there could be some changes coming. You never know. And what strategy around what round should I apply? Round 1, round 2, and then just really starting with, how do I build my school list? How do I think about that? How do I build, really build, understanding of my fit with each of the schools? And then obviously the thing that I mentioned earlier is what are the pitfalls? What are the things that I should really, look out for to make sure I don't fall into? And then of course we'll have great Q&A at the end, and love to answer any of your questions. So Tatiana, could you start us off and kind of just give us that overview of really just overall, what are the M7s looking for?
Absolutely. And of course, each school is going to have its own distinct flavor. It's going to have its feel and its culture. But overall, we can summarize it into these items that we see on the slide in terms of what are these M7 schools looking for. And so I'm going to start with the academic readiness there, because what they're going to be assuming as their strongest element is whatever you have demonstrated in the past, it's with high likelihood that you're going to keep demonstrating in the future. And so they're going to go for that evidence, in terms of you having the capacity to learn intellectually, to learn in an academic environment. And not only that, but that you can withstand the rigors of an academic program that's going to be demanding. And so they're going to go for that, they're going to look for that evidence through your GPA, through your GMAT, and they're going to go definitely, for that strong quantitative problem-solving analytical ability. They're also going to be looking for that leadership potential. And so that leadership potential, again, should have been manifested in what you've done so far, but it doesn't have to be, like in these extraordinary fits. No, it's basically this steady approach, this thoughtful approach in which you have demonstrated the initiative, the impact, that collaboration. So they're going to be, like also looking for that evidence. They definitely want to know that you are aware of who you are, how you present yourself, how you engage with others. So they're going to be looking for that authenticity, like that self-awareness, that purpose, that humility. And so, again, through very powerful essays, as we're going to be seeing in, kind of upcoming slides, there's going to be these questions in which they're going to be asking about what your values are, what's there at the core, what's animating you, what's propelling you. And so all of that, like they're going to be looking all across the different deliverables. Then, of course, there's the interpersonal skills, because even though you could have demonstrated that you have that intellectual capacity to learn, there is a very strong element of the emotional capacity to learn through your emotional intelligence. How do you fit into teams? What roles do you play? Do you feel courageous enough to step up into a void of guidance? Are you looking to find win-win situations in which you are building these appetite to work again and again and again with the same groups, or extend that? And so that's definitely something that they're going to be looking for. And then finally, you could have demonstrated all of that, right? You are someone that's delivering upon what's been asked of you. You're doing it in a very functional way vis-a-vis others. You are demonstrating grit and self-initiative. But then again, the question comes, what's your definition of impact? How ambitious are you in terms of having an impact on everything that surrounds you? And so that there lies kind of this vision, these clarity of what's your purpose, your sense of direction, your drive. How far are you having that visibility into the future? Are you being more focused into short-termism, or can you see the short term as a means to get you to a long term? And so, in short, they're looking for all of these elements in which not only are you someone that can learn intellectually and emotionally, that you can engage effectively with your surrounding, but also that you have that appetite to have traction and leave your mark.
Absolutely. That was such a great overview, Tatiana. I think it's all about, and really on, through an application, and like you said, all these different elements, how to bring them to life, about who you are, and not just what you are hoping to get from business school, but really what are you bringing? And we'll go through all the schools and their culture and right where they're looking for. But overall, all these different aspects, right? You really are looking to touch upon in your applications across all these schools. So like Tatiana said in the very beginning, this, sitting back, the self-awareness of really reflecting on where you've been and, how you really stand out amongst your leadership, about your EQs and how you show up in a room, and your values, I think is really just an amazing place to start. So as we now go through each of the schools, and we're going to jump in and start with HBS. Why not, right? HBS, thankfully for all of you, have now come up with 3 specific essays. Again, if they decide to continue using them this year, that really have 3 different categories. But at the end of the day, HBS has always been a place that they are looking for, your habit of leadership, your community engagement, and your intellectual curiosity. They are, general management education, and they are looking to build the next business leaders. So across these 3 essays, they have really decided, we are looking for the variety of experiences, perspectives to build our class. And we're going to do that through 3 essays: leadership, growth, and business minded. So you really strategically want to think about your strongest stories and looking at the prompts, how you fit in different pieces of your background. So first, let's start with leadership. This is really, the question is about how you invest in others, and, really about your growth as a leader. How would you define your leadership style? And this leadership one is really about, I think building on HBS is one of their main tenets of leadership, to educate leaders who really make a difference in the world, right? So if you really think about, they want to understand, how do you lead? So really, honing in on a story that's really going to be able to bring that to life and show your growth, and as well as how you see your leadership, position going forward. And then we get into this growth essay. And I really love this one. I think it takes a little time to think about, but it's really to reveal who you are, your inner learner. With the case method and being in the classroom and engaging with your classmates, how do you seek new ideas? Stretch beyond, your comfort zone, embrace discovery. What does that look like for you personally? And again, going back to the word evidence, really giving evidence of how you have been curious, what your growth has looked like, and really this driving force, just how do you operate? So really thinking how you can, really put that and shine a light on it through this growth essay. And finally, probably write this meaty one, which is the business minded. They definitely have a different take on it. I would say that they are really looking to focus on the choices that you've made so far in your career. What's the journey you've been on? Why did you do things? Why did you choose things? Your intentionality in doing those things, and maybe even bringing in your values and how those have guided you in your decisions. This is a great essay to show that self-awareness, to really, highlight, what you have, really learned through your professional time so far, through the skills and knowledge, to really has helped you, informed and pointing you in the direction you're headed. That you are really, they want to understand how your past decisions have really informed what's next for you. And what does that path look like? And why are you passionate and excited about it? So hopefully that's just a quick snapshot of HBS, and to really, again, align with those three, key categories, and bring your best, self to those, to really shine a light on leadership, the growth, curiosity, and business-minded. And next, we're going to have Tatiana jump in and talk about Stanford GSB.
Absolutely. And of course, as mentioned, you'll see all the common elements that each one of these share. There's of evidence and the kinds of behaviors that they are wanting to see in each one of the applicants. But then there's definitely that particular flavor, to each one of the schools. And in the case of Stanford, I think the element that is not unique, but it's the one that's mostly highlighted. It's this vitality, like this strong leadership potential, and this element of authenticity. And so how are they going to be gauging or looking for that, through your essays? There's the iconic essay of what matters most to you and why. And so here, you can definitely address this question from an external perspective in terms of saying elements that are desirable universally, or you can go dig deep into your own path and understand, what have you been favoring on top of anything else throughout your existence? Is it a sense of self-direction? Is it a sense of being in favor of, for instance, financial inclusion? Is it based off of your own trajectory, your own experience? And so here you have the opportunity to truly manifest based off your childhood, your growing up context, your values, the role models that have influenced you, messages that have informed who you've become. This is the opportunity to flesh it all out and then come up with what has been that common thread, that theme that has been favored by you, throughout your passage, academically and professionally so far. Then comes the why Stanford. And so there, I love to talk about the what matters most as the past and the present, like every single thing that has shaped you up to this day. And the why Stanford is the future. Where are you heading? What's your appetite? Like what's the vision in all of these? And then how is Stanford fitting into all of that? What specific elements are going to give you the traction? Is it a combination of faculty members, coursework, extracurriculars, everything else that's part of the ecosystem of the school? And so there you can demonstrate the specifics of you having done your homework in learning what the school is providing you with based off of where you want to get to. And then finally, just to mention, Stanford's motto is change lives, change organizations, change the world. So they also want to know, what's your definition of impact? And then how does that impact look like? And so they're going to offer you, a set of optional essays. Don't be fooled by thinking that these are optional. Please do take advantage of this opportunity to further offer up to 3 examples in which specifically you have taken action, had an impact, and then understood the result of all of that. And impact can be understood in terms of how you were impacted, benefited, from engaging in a specific action, and then what was the result for others, that were part of that. And then there's also another optional piece in which you have to talk about how your background has informed a recent decision. And so again, they're really, really asking for you to take complete ownership of who you are, what has informed your journey, who you've become, and where you want to go. And so, it doesn't seem like these questions could be as expansive as that, but they are, in the collection of probably 1,300 words total, across all of these essays, you can in fact present yourself in your totality, in terms of what has made you, where you're heading, and how far do you want to go.
Fantastic. Okay, next, Wharton. So as we just talked about with HBS and Stanford, the culture at Wharton, what does Wharton really represent? Is it a good fit for you? And Wharton is all about collaboration. They are looking to, you are part of a learning team. They have their team-based discussion interview process. They really want to understand how do you make up a piece of a team, and how is your leadership style coming and progressing over time. And really, with the change they had this last year with their essays, they are really honing in on your vision for the future. What is your path forward? As we talked about both with Stanford and HBS, to really shine a light on where are you headed. So they now will have these 2, I will call them shorter answer questions that are focused specifically on your goals, both short-term post-MBA and more of a mid to long-term vision that you have for yourself. So what are they really looking for? Again, understanding that they are about collaboration, again, the words impact, and really finding evidence and, meaningful understanding of what you've done and where are you headed. So how do you see your career unfolding post-MBA? And what is the path that really matters to you? So it's really pulling back the why behind it. Why are you really, passionate, driven, ambitious within this industry? Are you pivoting to something else? Are you taking what you've learned to date and really applying it to another specific role? Because it's going to set you on a path to do X, Y, and Z, right? And it's really, again, we talked about earlier, this, it's a balance of being ambitious, but also realistic of what you would ultimately like to achieve and what kind of impactful leader you hope to become. So through these 2 goals essays, Wharton is really, going all in to really give you the opportunity to share with them, where you are headed, what's important to you, what you still need to learn on your way to really, looking to, achieve, whatever it looks like for you. And then their main 3rd essay, I would call it, is they have continuing to use, because it's really, again, Wharton has always looked to understand, again, what are you looking to, gain benefit from the Wharton MBA, but what are you bringing? So again, looking to put together a class of again, variety of backgrounds and perspectives, you know, they really want to understand, where have you been? What have you really had an insider's view to? What's been important to you that you are going to bring and contribute to your classmates, to the community? You know, what unique energy, perspective, you know, that you have that's really going to enhance the experience of your classmates. So, you know, that's what it's all about, Wharton. It's a student run, you know, clubs and organizations, everyone gets involved. It could be, you know, with the healthcare management club. It could be with Venture Lab. There are many things going on. So really what you want to hone in on is, what about your background? Do you really, you know, identify that you had an impactful project at work, something outside of work that you've spent time on, been involved with, and that's really shaped your perspective that you are going to bring and contribute. So they really want to understand the how of that and how that aligns with Wharton offerings. So to really, again, we're going to get into research and outreach, understand what piece of the Wharton, you know, ecosystem that's going on with their interdisciplinary opportunities, et cetera, that you are really going to jump into and bring your background and be an impactful contributor as both a classmate and to the bigger University of Pennsylvania as well. So really looking to align yourself with this collaborative ethos that is on campus at Wharton. So next, we're going to go to Chicago Booth, Tatiana.
Thank you, Michelle. And so then again, leveraging the common elements that each and every one of these schools will be looking for, keep that in mind. However, Booth has now this additional emphasis on looking for analytical, evidence-based thinkers and independent voices. And so this is very emblematic of the school as a whole. And so they're going to be searching for these through two very uniquely presented essays. And so the first one is, it's going to be asking you, how will Chicago Booth help you achieve the goals that you have in mind? So not different from some of the other prompts that we have seen for the other schools. But it's very important that you keep in mind that beyond the what, beyond the destination or the different milestones that you're going to be hitting along that way up to your long-term vision, it's important to understand the why, what's propelling you. And so it's a little bit of a combination of what matters most to you, and then why are you applying to the MBA? And so again, it's asking for this introspection in understanding, are you just doing these to please external expectations, or is there truly a sense of knowledge and a true ownership of why are you doing things, and why are you at this point in your life applying to these incredibly competitive programs? Is there a reason that's been sparked from within? Let us know. Please display that. Explain, and then of course, like get into, well, and where am I heading? It's important, and I would like to mention these, like for the application process as a whole, wise individuals adjust and pivot. So what's important here is, at this point in time, with the information you have, where are you heading and what's that aspiration? Establish it with as much granularity and specificity as you can, and link the logical thinking of where you're starting now, how the MBA is going to help you catalyze, or get faster to where you want to go, and where's that destination. And of course, you don't know what you don't know, and that's why you're going to these incredible institutions to learn more and expand horizons, and then you can revisit that. But it's always important to know at any point in time where you're heading, because that increases the likelihood of getting there. So that's exactly what they're going for with this prompt. And then, of course, they want to know not only where you're heading and the impetus and the reason for that, but they also want to know, what are you made of? What's composing the set of values, beliefs. And so that's going to be prompted by the second essay with the photo essay. And so they're going to offer you 4 images. And the images really are just an excuse to get to know you better. And so they're going to want to know which image resonates with you the strongest and why. And of course, in analyzing that and introspecting on where you're being drawn the most, you're going to be portraying and displaying all of these things that drive your decisions. Like what are the elements that you value the most from kind of the cultural context. What are the elements that you value the most as an individual that you're basing most of your decisions around? And so in sum, between these 2 prompts, again, just as you have seen with the former schools that we have talked about, they want to know the inner workings of who you are, and they want to know your appetite to leave a mark in the world and your sense of purpose.
That's fantastic. So yeah, as Tatiana said, we're going to start getting, there's going to be very many similarities. So Kellogg, first let me start with kind of, again, who they are. They are looking for brave leaders. They are definitely like Booth, values driven and very collaborative as well, similar to Wharton, collaborative leaders. And they really, again, with their first essay, like Booth, want to understand your clarity of purpose, entering with a sense of purpose. What are you hoping to achieve, learn during your 2 years? And, specifically how the Kellogg MBA is going to contribute to that and to your success. So really, this is a don't miss opportunity to have done your homework and really bring to essay 1, your understanding of what I'm going to gain from a Kellogg MBA. After, again, I'm just not going to be repetitive, but what Tatiana really covered in the Chicago booth, that clarity of what you want to do, your motivations, the why behind your goals, and first laying that out. They also bring in a little element of, why is now the right time, given where you are on your professional journey, to step away from that and really, invest in these 2 years of business school. And then again, how do you tie that to investing 2 years at Kellogg? So how's it a good fit for you? They're lifelong learners at Kellogg. So really, it's not even that 2 years, but it's the beyond, right? So that you are someone that is really, focused on and excited by the opportunity to keep learning, to keep evolving. And also part of Kellogg is the giving back. So they're going to be, again, as we say here, a catalyst for your growth, but also, what you hope to continue to benefit and give back to as a member of the Kellogg community. So really, looking at what you've done and, how that really aligns with Kellogg, and really, having that understanding and being able to articulate that in the essay 1. And essay 2, they've kind of changed the wording over the years, but they are very focused on understanding how do you lead? How do you, deal with a difficult situation, challenges, how do you problem solve? They really want to get inside your, understanding of how do you, approach situations with difficulty? How have you come out the other end? So this takes a lot of reflection, again, to really, decide what is my strongest story? What can I really give evidence of the steps that I've taken and how I've grown through this and what I've learned from this experience? And again, you are trying to align yourself and demonstrate that leadership style that Kellogg, is really proud of. Again, I use the words, they used to use the word brave leadership in their essay prompts, collaboration, inclusive leadership, and really, align yourself with those Kellogg values and bringing that story to really give them a sense of, again, your day in and day out workings, your growth, and also, again, using the word, your impact, and really going back to originally self-awareness to really share that story with them. So I think Kellogg, really is able to, look for those values that align with their school through these 2 essays. So let's next go to MIT Sloan. That's definitely a different approach to the application.
Absolutely. And so in the case of MIT, we had to choose a few words to describe the kind of emphasis that they're going for. Is these principled, analytical leaders with a bias for action. There's a very pragmatic aspect of the school as it is, and you will see it through the very different ways in which they are having these application deliverables. This is a different flavor, no, compared to the somewhat lengthier essays of the other schools. Here, basically, they're asking for a cover letter. So sometimes it's easier to have more of, more real estate to talk about who you are and what has animated you versus having these concise 30-word cover letter in which you're going to be talking about whatever you deem is the best selection to portray who you are and what you bring to the table. That's what you're going to be including into that cover letter. And so talking about very specific examples, in which you have demonstrated your process of coming to the table with a specific solution, in which you're portraying that integrity, in which you're demonstrating, that you have that self-starter capacity, that's that inclination for initiative. And of course, that ultimately you are not doing for doing's sake, but you're doing with a very intentional reason behind it, like seeking a specific impact. And ideally, not a self-serving impact, but an impact that's going to be multiplicative and to the benefit of the community that you're interacting with. And so this is a great opportunity to, in a very concise manner, by being very thoughtful about the instance or instances that you're going to be choosing to include, that you can very effectively and very succinctly show that you are someone with thoughtfulness, with courage to act, to jump into action, and ultimately with a very clear sense of purpose, of what you're doing. And I'm pretty sure that being the type of individual that you have already been and demonstrated, you will have more than one example, to pick up from. And so it's in selecting that example with the flavor, the punch, that then you can convey in this cover letter, that energy, that you will bring to the MIT community. Secondly, very unique, this video essay, of course, we've seen more and more, but and I anticipate that it's going to be that even going into the future, having this video essay component into the application, because when you're submitting let's say one-dimensional elements, which is learning about you through what you're writing, adding the presence, adding the video element, it just brings you to life, in a very different way. And what they're looking for here, let's say, of course, the content has to be interesting and has to be punchy, but beyond that, it's your energy, the gravitas, the likability, so to speak, that you're bringing forward in terms of being someone that's really ready to hit the ground running, and how that manifests in a very, in your very own unique way, because we're all going to be different. But it's undeniable that when you are someone that's ready to jump in, engage, roll up your sleeves, participate in whatever capacity, sometimes as a leader, sometimes as a follower, they want to kind of capture the essence, of what is it that you're bringing to the table. And then as of late, because this short essay, the third one, has not been there all along, it has been kind of a recent addition. They are opening up this other window that some of the other schools, already having their prompts, in trying to understand how has your circumstance, your background, your very particular story, how has that made you, and reflecting on that, and then offering that, in terms of how, what's that world that has shaped you? What are those very unique elements in the backdrop of your existence that are going to make you distinctive vis-a-vis other individuals' journey? And so again, as you can see, not that they're looking for different things, they're looking for the same evidence. Now they have packaged it differently. And I think MIT, in its way, it's very unique, no, in their deliverables, and particularly this pragmatic or this bias for action, no, this pragmatic approach that they have.
Absolutely, I agree. Okay, and I think this is our last one for our M7s is Columbia Business School. I've really enjoyed working with my clients on Columbia Business School. They haven't changed their essays a lot, especially the main career goals essay. Probably out of all the schools, they give you the most real estate to talk about, your career goals and where are you headed. But first, let's start with, they're looking, again, for ambitious, forward-looking, again, with the career goals really being an emphasis, leaders. They really want this clarity around what are your plans going forward. Again, how do you see your path, unraveling, take us along the journey that you really picture for yourself, again, at this time. And they are all about collaboration, very collaborative spirit. They're in New York City. They know that's a big draw to people. And they want to understand your fit with that and why you're drawn to not only their school, but obviously the new Manhattanville campus, and how that is exciting to you. But let's start first with their first, again, the main essay, which is really specifically to look at, your career vision, to really understand, again, where have you been, what have you done that's really informed where you're headed going forward. They say they don't want you repeating. They have your resume. They understand the jobs that you've done. But I think you need to include that in order to give them the stepping stones of why you're ambitious, the why you want to go and tackle these problems, the why of why you want this role, and what excites you about solving these complex problems or understanding what's going on with AI or helping healthcare, wherever you fall. They want to understand your motivation behind that, and that's really giving you the opportunity to showcase that clarity of the steps you hope to take. And then I think it's also, bringing in the element of the Columbia Business School and New York City element of really being, as they say, being at the center of the business world, taking advantage of that, and really helping you launch your career going forward. So that's their career goals essay. And then, the second essay has changed over time, but it is really about, aligning with the collaborative element of being at Columbia Business School, inclusion and leadership. So here they're really asking you to pick this story about collaboration, team, being inclusive, and really, highlighting, using that STAR method that you're going to use for some of the Kellogg, the second essay probably as well. What was the situation? How did you, really probably focus on and really prioritize in this experience, being collaborative, being someone that is, has the EQs to pull others into an experience, to step in and understand how do we, work cross-culturally, whatever your story is, to really, think about, this is what I want them to know about me. This is what I want them to learn about how I approach teamwork, my empathy, and how that has, taken place, through this example. And lastly is I still think of it as a why Columbia Business School question. They've definitely changed the wording to really understand. They use the word co-create. So it's really, I love it because it does help, them understand and help you be able to give evidence of and demonstrate how you really see yourself, what's important to you. And, and coming into this, hope that you have for the next 2 years, the journey you want to have, how the Columbia Business School community really benefit you, and how you're, again, just like Wharton, going to jump in and get involved and bring your perspective, gain skills and knowledge to really set you professionally on your career and really help shape that, career vision that you have going forward. So you do have to really have a strong knowledge of the resources, the offerings at Columbia Business School that are specifically going to benefit you and how you will really, take advantage of those that align, again, very specifically to professionally your growth, but it can be both hard skills and soft skills. But also think about when it says co-create, what element you're bringing as well to what the club that you want to get involved in. You want to, jump in and be a part of the culture within New York City and what that looks like and feels like for you, because you've always had this connection to the arts, so that you want to really highlight within this essay. So they really are giving you this opportunity to give, again, different attributes about who you are and what's important to you, and how that is really going to align with, as you come into the Columbia Business School program, and, how you're going to take advantage of the amazing things that are going on at their school and within New York City. I would say you also, want to probably highlight that is, again, not generic, but very important to you specifically, given your background, interests, passions. So hopefully that was a quick kind of great overview of the M7 schools, what they are, looking for. And now we're going to jump into Tatiana. Let's talk about strategy around round 1, round 2, and the schools that do, have still the round 3s.
Absolutely. And so then a very important distinction, that has helped me navigate the logic between round 1 and round 2 is, in the words of the four at Stanford, what she said was, between round 1 and round 2, please send your application when you feel you're presenting your strongest application. And by that, there's definitely a little bit of no regrets going for round 1 or round 2, no way to discern. But having said that, it's important to know that in this case, more is always going to be desirable. So if you can get there earlier and you can go for round 1, if you have a polished and ready application to do that, then absolutely go for round 1. If you feel that you're going to be sacrificing because you have several other responsibilities, your workload, the way that you have managed, getting GMAT or GRE out of the way, focusing on the other deliverables is going to put you in a stronger application for round 2. So then please favor round 2. Don't sacrifice the quality of the application just because you're going to get there earlier. But if you can you can have the double whammy of having things right earlier, please do go for round 1. Now, definitely we know the largest pool of available seats at round 1, but that does not take away from the reality that most of the class, or most of the admits are still drawn from round 1 and round 2. So again, be judicious and have the capacity to discern what's going to render the best possible solution. If it's going to be waiting for round 2 with a more solid application, or being ready, and going for round 1. Now, of course, if you go for round 1, there's a very strong signal of commitment to the school, and so that's not to disregard. And then again, like most of the scholarship funding is there at round 1. So all of these things, important to consider. But again, we can say that between round 1 and round 2, there's a little bit of component of indifference. Now, let me add to the fact that some of the most common profiles, the better known profiles, like the heaviest number of applicants throughout the history, of business school, such as coming from, consulting firms, maybe investment banking, some other practices. There's a definite inclination to maybe go better for round 1, because the more you go into the round 1, round 2, round 3, the higher the element of distinction and uniqueness, that you will need to be able to bring to the table. So having said that, no, like between round one and round two, round three, we are strong proponents to stay away from round three, as the stakes are definitely higher. No, like most of the class would have been assembled by round one and round two applicants. So, in fitting into already that defined set of students, you will need to demonstrate that you are bringing a very unique differentiator, no, that you're adding value in no uncertain terms, no, and so that kind of narrows down the opportunities. No, there's definitely limited seats left. It also, no, like you would have to display a very strong reason as to why you had to wait until round three. So no, like it's always better to be a good planner, to stay ahead of the game, and if you can ideally hit round one, please do so. If not, round two, no, is kind of a good second opportunity.
Absolutely. So building off of that, and from what Tatiana just, laid out with the different rounds, is planning and taking the time. And I would say, as we are just the beginning of June, this is a great timeline, and giving yourself the time to, build your application, but here building your school list and what that really looks like and feels like. And I believe in the continued outreach and research across all the schools that you are interested in and planning to apply to is just is a process that you're going to want to continue from the time you start thinking about applying to business school to almost about the day that you push submit. So first, when you're building your school list, you want to think, again, we talked about looking at all the, the school's essay prompts, is you're going to definitely want to, think about your career vision, and also, therefore, this is what I hope to do and why you need the MBA. How is that, clarity of purpose really going to help you, will help you identify the schools that are going to help propel you to achieve those goals you have for yourself. So again, understanding what your toolkit is and where your holes are and what you're really looking to gain through business school, and then doing your research on the schools, which we'll get into, but really understanding, why do you need the MBA? What are you lacking? What are you hoping to gain, enhance in terms of skills and knowledge? And then, like I said, then you're going to go and do the research at all the schools. If you're able to visit, they have many, info sessions, webinars, taped ones, live ones that you can attend. And I think probably even more importantly is speaking with current students and alumni about their experiences, about, what did, the mindset they went in with, what is it really like the day to day and what they've gained, how does the school really, partner with you to find success professionally. And really, that's where we are focused on the M7s. I do not be worried about what the rankings are within that. It's really looking for and gaining the understanding of each program and what it offers you, that you can, again, some of these schools are asking you to highlight that through their essays, is why that school really aligns and resonates with you based on what are your career goals and what you are looking to gain through business school for the 2 years. And I've talked about, it's an investment of 2 years and a lifelong investment. And then we'll go to, building your school list. You do have to look at your own profile and reflect and really be realistic about, okay, all those components that Tatiana covered at the beginning, the academic bucket, what does that look like for me, my work experience, how many years, have I been taking on additional responsibilities, my trajectory, my insight and perspective that I've gained that I could bring. That's really, again, informed what are my career goals going forward. And I think that's going to help you evaluate, again, the reach schools. These M7s are quite competitive. Am I able, do I believe, can my candidacy, can I stand out amongst the pool, and really doing the personal, the question to yourself is, do I want to attend business school next fall? What does that look like and feel like for me personally? And the different schools that you will put on your list. And we say in the very last, and, looking to apply anywhere, I'd say from 3 to 5 schools. Again, do you have a round one strategy, a round two strategy if you're ahead of the game, but really excitement about these programs and really, again, the investment that you're going to be making about what you want to get out of this experience, the people that you meet, the relationships that you build, the academic in the classroom, knowledge building, having professors doing research, again, really reflecting and understanding what you are hoping to benefit from and gain to really help you build this school list. And the other thing is, they all have their distinct strengths. They all have, you think of one school because of this, but you really need to go do your homework and see what their offerings are. And again, that will serve your goals best. Sure, I'll just give you the example. Wharton's a great finance school. It's so much more than that. And if you don't know that, then you haven't even begun to do your research. If that's your focus, fabulous. There's many schools that will align with that. But if you have other general management, business acumen that you need to build, what does that look like? Does the curriculum at the school have a flexibility that you can really pick and choose your classes? So I really encourage you to go do your homework and find out what about these schools that is really exciting to you and that really will benefit you personally, not just the name itself. It's way more than that because we know across all M7s, they're fantastic schools, but which one is the right school for you? And this takes time. So make sure, again, within this process, round one, round two, that you're giving yourself the time to really build your list and do that research is super key. And that brings us to the pitfalls of, okay, now that you know you're applying, what should I make sure I stay away from or really, have the awareness to not let happen to me? Tatiana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll see this is going to be no surprise because exactly what we have been recommending all along, what Michel just alluded to in the former slide, it's exactly directly connected to the things that you want to avoid. So I want to look at the submitting too many applications along with the lack of school fit research as one connected very intimately with the other, in the sense that although there is, let's say, law of big numbers component that you want to apply to more than one school, ideally you want to broaden that to increase the likelihood of getting into any of the programs that are a good fit to you. I would completely go against, having such a broad and numerous expanse that you sacrifice the quality of each one of those applications individually, and then that you have not truly come to terms with the fact that if you're applying to a school, that means that you would be so happy if that's the only school that accepts you. So don't just apply to have fillers, because that's going to be to the detriment of the application process, and it's going to be to the detriment of ultimately the result. And so make sure that there's no magic number 3, 5, 7, but make sure that the universe of schools that you're applying to, that individually as standalone options, those are incredibly viable, exciting options, that you would be so happy, to attend if you were accepted. So make sure that you start the homework by being very intentional and very honest with yourself as to which schools you're going to be applying to. And then, of course, this element of making sure there's going to be, of course, a portion of the essay, just as we have talked about, like the many different prompts that the schools are offering you. There's going to be one element that's going to be asking about who you are, like how you have become the individual you are today. And that story does not change, based on the school that you're going to. But there is an element that's very unique to the school. And that's going to reflect that you have done the right research, that you have a good grasp as to the culture, a good grasp as to all the extracurricular offerings, the curricular offerings, the caliber of the faculty. So making sure that you're customizing, you're speaking, to the specifics of what the school is offering, because you should see these as almost dating the schools, and just talking in generic terms to each one of the schools, it's not going to like give you the result. You need to talk about the specific attributes, the things that are interesting about those schools, hence, like that tailoring of the essays. And then, of course, where we started things was that this should be a journey of introspection, of unearthing all the things that probably because you have not had to pause all the way up to this point in your life to understand who you are and what animates you. Well, there lies, presenting a strong profile that's differentiating. And so if you're not doing the introspection, if you're just skimming the surface, if you're just saying the things that you think they want to hear, that's not going to position you strongly. So doing that legwork of understanding who you are and what has made you is the best way forward, to stay avoiding that weak profile differentiation. And then finally, again, plan, stay ahead. Don't rush into things because you might have the capacity to introspect, to be creative, to present yourself strongly, but you can't quite rush art, no? And so if you feel you're rushed, you're not going to engage your full brain for creative work. If you feel that you have the abundance of time, then you can explore and you can kick the tires of things and calibrate them this way and that. So allow yourself, like a very healthy timeline to accomplish all of these elements. So with that, I know that we're almost close to the end, but yes.
Yes, that was a great ending because I think the time is the gift to yourself to, like that Tatiana said, to really give you this opportunity to put your best foot forward, right? So a little bit about Fortuna, you can, reach us, or this is who we are, an amazing team. I'm so grateful to be able to work with Tatiana and all our other colleagues that have that insider's view of the top business schools around the world. And most importantly, we love partnering with you, and we want to be part of your journey. So please reach out, connect with us. We have free consultations. We are going to quickly cover a couple questions that we've gotten in the Q&A, but really your personal specific questions, we would love to jump on a call with you and talk through it with you, help you think about your game plan and your approach, because everyone has their own unique story and background. And that's why I think Tatiana and I really love each and every new cycle that we start is engaging and bringing out the best of our clients through this application, because again, that's all we can hope for you is to tell your truth, your story, who you are, what's important to you, and connect with the reader on the other end. And we really, truly enjoy this process. And we will just jump into a couple questions on Q&A. Tatiana, did you read any that you want to jump into quickly? Let me look.
Yes. There's one that
I
see, being an international candidate from India, are there any extra steps, things that we need to know that he or she will need to keep in mind while devising the application? And to be honest, I don't think there's anything specific that anybody from anywhere has to think in addition to what we have talked about, because regardless of where you come from, your background, what has informed you, the cultural underpinnings of your existence, your familiar underpinnings, all of that, the ask is the same in terms of explaining and elaborating as to what has made you, who you've become, where you're heading, how is the MBA help you get there, like in a more precise or in a better way. And then what are you bringing to the community? Because this is not a one-way street. This is a situation, just as Michel was alluding to, of co-creation. And so you're going to get as much as you give. And so, how are you planning to do that? So nothing different, because of course, that's the kind of work that we would be doing alongside you in terms of identifying which are the elements that are core to your academic and professional existence, what is more in an extracurricular or award element. But we would make sure that all those key elements that need to be included, that we are that all of that is in fact included.
Agree. Okay, the next question I see is, how will a profile perceived with a 90 to 95 percentile in GMAT with a meager GPA but impactful work experience look? I'm sure there's very specific, that we would love to dig into. Again, give us a call. But in general, again, they're going to assess your academic bucket. So that's both your undergrad, institution, what did you major in, what classes did you take, how well did you do? And I understand some people, maybe that's a little bit on the, let's say, lower end of the GPA range. Did you have an upward trajectory? Maybe you started off fresh the first year, and struggled a little bit. It's a big transition and how to navigate. But every year you got a little stronger. And then that component, along with the test score, GMAT, GRE, they're going to consider both. Again, the academic rigor of these schools, they want to make sure they're bringing you in to find success. So they're definitely going to take both into consideration. Definitely the higher GMAT, GRE can offset the lower GPA. But again, there's specific elements of that GPA that they are going to consider. And again, we're happy to talk through that specifically with you, but just to look at it as the overall, your academic preparedness for the program. And again, to go to the work experience as well, say your quant was a little weaker undergrad, or you didn't have those classes, but you did great on the GMAT in your work, you're crunching numbers, you're building models, they're definitely taking that into consideration as well. I think we have time for one more question, I think. Let's see, Tatiana. Okay, the one more about starting my own business. At the age of 23, it's been 3 years, now planning to do an MBA for international exposure. Oh, what GMAT should I target? Okay, there's no right GMAT. Again, goes back to, what does your undergrad education look like? What schools are you considering? They all kind of have those, ranges that they will post. Obviously, M7's quite competitive. The stronger you can do that GMAT, GRE, increases the chances and strengthens your candidacy, because you are competing with, a very strong pool of people. One thing does not take you out of the discussion, but it goes back to really assessing your own strengths. So I would start with definitely IMA, go take the GMAT, and see how you're doing on the sections. And again, going back to, we'll end with, giving yourself the time to study and take the test is going to increase your chances of scoring the best score that you can, that maybe hopefully will align with these schools, especially the international exposure. If it's M7s or international schools, the highest GMAT possible, right? But it's a great question. We're with the GMAT Club. They have great resources, but start early. And balancing that with applying to business school can be a lot. So it's a game plan. And with work and everyday life, just take that into consideration. But I just want to end with, this is GMAT. They're going to, we have free consultations. Really love to talk to people about their plans, their thoughts. And Tatiana, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you to present today. We love doing this. And again, we love speaking to people that are thinking about applying to business school and working with you and being on this journey with you. So thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day and be well. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.